last week, Jerry Seinfeld of the show Seinfeld, of a new movie about Pop Tarts, I think, that apparently is god awful. He said this. I think this is to the New Yorker podcast or something like this. But basically about woke culture and how they've ruined comedy and sitcoms do not exist anymore.
Nothing really affects comedy. People always need it. They need it so badly, and they don't get it. It used to be you would go home at the end of the day. Most people would go, oh, Cheers is on. Oh, MASH is on. Oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on. All in the Family's on. You just expected there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. Mm-hmm. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke, well, that's the end of your comedy. They move the gates, like in skiing. Yeah. Culture, the gates are moving. Your job is to be agile and clever enough that wherever they put the gates, I'm going to make the gate.
I thought you just said nothing affects comedy.
I was just thank you. Yeah.
He opens that by saying nothing really affects comedy. We're always going to need it. Perfect.
Nothing affects food. You always need food. What? Like, what even kind of thing is that to say?
But then he's like, well, how come Mary Tyler Moore's not on? Like, the references. He's not even referencing shows that were the Seinfeld generation.
Yeah, he can't, because there are always shows. And yeah, you go home and like Friends is on. Well, then The Office is on. Then Parks and Rec is on. Like, what name a show?
Yeah, Abbott Elementary is crushing it now, right? Like, what are you talking about?
You're also talking about like network TV specifically for some reason, where it's like there are shows everywhere all the time, and your mileage may vary. Everyone has a different sense of humor, and the note system isn't new, and it's not the woke left doing it.
But it's just feel like
executives wanting their little fingers in everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with him on the like whatever the note fucking.
But that's a different point.
It's a different point, but also don't you kind of get like the feeling that some committee gave him notes that was like had one too many people of color 100%. And or gay person that was like maybe not this joke, and he was like, oh, like, and like every liberal turn right winger is just like you said something that I said was offensive, like 9, and they just Heil Hitler, and that's the end of it.
Oh yeah, no, he's thinking of 2 things that happened to him in his life, right? Yeah. Like, that's all he's focusing on. I know he had a joke at one point, like 8 years ago, about strolling your phone and how it looks like you're like a gay French king, I believe was the phrase. And he got so upset that one audience was a little uncomfortable when he used the word gay, I guess. And he can't stop thinking about it. He can't stop thinking about like the vague, awkward silence of one joke. And like maybe think about like why they don't like it and like adjust, because that's also what comedy is about. Like you gauge the audience and like, oh, that didn't work. I wonder why that didn't work. I can rework it, because you're going for the laugh. He knows that you go for the big laugh. Maybe I can adjust this or do this or whatever. And so there's that. And then he's thinking, I assume, about this Unfrosted movie that looks like a real pile. And he got a bunch of notes that he didn't like, and that's just all he can think about. Right. And there are other shows that don't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, tell me that Jerry Seinfeld does not have far more sway and power in pushing back on a note he didn't like than pick any other writer, any other like comedian, anyone else in the industry. It's like I'm sure it was fine, and your joke got in.
Exactly, or reword the joke and make it funny. This is another thing that I have an issue with a little bit, where like when people are like, oh, they can't say anything anymore, they didn't like this, so I had to change it. You can make a good joke still. Nothing is stopping you from doing that. If you get a note and it sucks and it's bad, I agree it sucks and you don't want to rewrite something, but you can, and you can still make it really funny if you're funny. Yeah. If you have restrictions or certain parameters, you can't do this, that can often enhance your comedy. Because you have restrictions and you have to work through them or work around them and work with them.
But it's also I do think as a stand-up who doesn't perform as much as I would like, but TBD, big show coming, it is interesting when you have like a straight white guy doing comedy who's never felt that he had to temper his humor or his perspective based on who was in the room. As a woman in comedy, you're constantly thinking that. That's all you're thinking about. Does this joke make me look too sexual? Does this joke make me look like a whore? Does this joke make me look, like I'm being too much of a smartass? Does this and what am I wearing?
Very
You are
aggressive here is
constantly,
just, yeah.
or if you're gay or if you're a person of color, like you just constantly focus on how people are seeing you and how you're coming across. And like for the first time, because we have a little bit more understanding of, yes, how good white guys have had it, you can't come out with like, yes, there's some words you're not gonna be able to say. Maybe the gay king thing is not gonna hit in certain crowds, and you have to be okay with that. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's
Also, just
so
express
whack.
you can still make it work. Do your little jokes. Do it. It's fine. Yeah, like he's not. This isn't based off of him talking to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not getting like your experience in doing stand up and talking about this. He's not getting like some other writer about their show. Like, oh, I tried to make anti-woke stuff, but they made me make it woke. Like he's just it's
Right.
his own personal rich white man experience. Like
The PC culture, at least he said PC. That's why I'm like, I dig the PC thing because now it's woke, but this Gen Xer had the temerity to be like, no, my generation
oh yeah, we
knew
harken
it was
back. Yeah,
PC. We
exactly.
harken
Yeah.
back. And speaking of PC or un-PC, our final contestant for Comedy Cringies comes from also Seinfeld, but in conversation with Bill Maher. I'm not going to play it because this dude probably will get the video, whatever, copyright stricken or some bullshit. But Bill Maher was talking with his Club Random on his Club Random podcast.
He's such a random guy. You like
Cody,
bacon, Bill? You like random stuff?
like
Narwhals, Bill? God.
I cannot imagine a worse fucking name for a podcast than it's Club Random.
It's
That's
very
the
fair.
most like I'm phoning it in. Rogan talks for 3 hours. Why can't I?
Oh yeah. He wants to and like Bill, you talk every week already.
Yes.
You do this.
He's like, no, well,
You're
technically
on
not
Max,
because my
Bill.
writers speak for me and they, they try to make my ridiculous thoughts somewhat funny. And I love, oh God, when Bill Maher, you've seen him because I know, like, when you read something for the first time and you laugh, he laughs at his own jokes like he's never read them before because he
Oh my
hasn't.
God, he loves
Because
it.
he's like,
Loves it so much.
no. But it's because it's the first time he's actually
It's
reading
new.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
But anyway, so they're at this, they're talking Club Random, and Bill's like, "Ugh, all these young people complaining pants about, how like, rising.
Bill, you complain. You're the complainer. You're complaining.
Exactly. You've literally made a living off of complaining. That's also part of what comedy is. But basically, shut your trap, youngins. Stop complaining about how bad everything is. I'm fine. Look at me. He says, I had dinner with people and they're like, oh, the world's ending. He continued, look around you, you fuck, you dumbass. We're at this fucking awesome restaurant. They're bringing you this food. This dinner's going to cost $700 and you're not even going to fucking blink and pay the check. Shut the fuck up about how terrible things are. Now, that might be so if he's just talking to these elitists, but that's not the angle that he's taking here. He says, climate change hasn't gotten us yet, Maher said. We walked out here today and we weren't like evaporated by the rays of the sun or something, which is definitely how climate change works. It was a beautiful day. The grass is green. The sky is blue. He went on to say, this is so dystopian. This is so Hunger Games, though. Dude, like, the sky is blue. There's lots of poisons everywhere.
You're on Max. What are you talking about? God.
The sky. Wait. There's lots of poisons everywhere and lots of terrible things. Like poisons? He's realized with age that these are wonderful times. Trump could do this and democracy and blah, blah, blah. Nuclear war, he added. But I'm not going to fucking go nuts again. If he wins another term, I just can't. I'm not going to lose my nervous system about Trump again, Maher added. If he ends the world, he's going to end the world. Instead of pushing back, Seinfeld simply laughed along, indicated that he too is trying to stay even-keeled about the prospect of Trump's return to office. I feel a little bit, Cody, before you jump in, I feel like at least as distasteful as this is very honest because I too sometimes scratch my head at certain liberals with a lot of money, a lot of standing, browbeating the rest of us with like a fraction of their wealth, about not voting, just voting for Joe Biden. And as we've talked about, I obviously believe in voting for our, a better adversary who I do think is Biden. But I always am come back to the fact, like, you fools are not going to lose anything if Trump is reelected.
Mm-hmm.
You, including Biden, do not take a second term of Trump seriously. Otherwise, Biden would have changed his tune on a lot of things a lot earlier if he was truly concerned about losing in November. So it kind of is, at least like, this is truly out the quiet part out loud, the truly mask off moment of like liberal elites saying, I mean, it's not going to affect me.
I got my bunker. Look at all the neon signs I have in my stupid bunker. Look at I got Pac-Man over there. God, what a loser. Yeah, it is, I guess it is refreshing to hear him say this. But like,
it's like admitting that he's out of touch. It's like, oh, he knows he's out of touch.
It is, but also at the same time, he would not be saying this if the situation were slightly different, or if Trump was in power, or if, like, again, it's just this sort of like, he's so reflexive on his views. He, like, 2 years ago could be seen talking about climate change being real and mattering, and if a Republican said, climate change is fine, look, it's nice outside, he would be pointing out what an absurd thing that is to say, and how that's not how it works, and you're just dismissing it because it doesn't affect you or whatever. So he knows he's just a piece of shit.
He is a contrarian. He's not a comedian. He's a contrarian. He's not funny. He's just a contrarian. He's one of the worst. He's the worst person to argue with, because if you push him too hard or make too good of a case, he'll literally take the opposite, point of view, just for argument's sake.
There's a clip from I guess years ago now, when Obama, when they were working on Obamacare, and he had like Dinesh D'Souza on, because he's always had these freaks on,
right.
And they're talking about healthcare, and Bill Maher's like, a lot of people, I agree, they're not, this doesn't go far enough, like you're claiming this is like a far left sort of like thing. Well, no, like a left wing proposal or a more liberal one would be like something like Medicare for all, or single payer healthcare, advocating for that, because Dinesh D'Souza is in front of him saying this other thing. He's like, well,
right.
We got to do this. It's just who's in front of him or who's in the Oval Office at the time is where his opinions largely stem from, it seems, and his excessive wealth and need to be popular and liked and so on.
Oh, yeah. And I also think that this is a little bit of admission that not only will he not be hurt by a second Trump administration, but that he will probably do the bidding media-wise of a second Trump administration. And perhaps the hand-wringing we saw in 2016 when Trump won, and all news media, including like Hollywood. I remember I was like pitching a show that I was told was too divisive. Everyone was like, what are we missing? Like, maybe the racists are like actually the embattled ones, and maybe we should reach out across the aisle and and it's the working class. Fuck that. We know it's not the working class.
And that's not what they mean. Yeah.
And that's right. Exactly. You mean white people, and they're mostly middle class. And so it's kind of a signal that, like, if he is reelected, I will definitely be like, I'll be a mouthpiece.
Oh yeah, he'll be the guy who's like trying to be like, oh, these liberals are all like, they're upset, they're doing their marches or whatever, and like, calm down, everybody.
Look, the Justice Department needed an overhaul for decades now, and what did the Justice Department even do? Like, that's what it'll be. It's like, we're gonna see some. I don't want to even think about it, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's just, it's just this sort of a reflexive approach, contrarianism for the contrarianism's sake, and also Seinfeld's in front of him, so he's gotta go along even more, right? Anytime there's a comedian on with him who's like more successful or more liked,
funnier,
funny, whatever, exactly. He'll always be like, don't you want to commiserate about woke culture? Don't you hate it? And like forcing that to be the thing that they bond over, because they need to bond over something. One of the best examples is when he had Bill Burr on, and Bill Burr was just like, I don't care. I say what I want. People get mad. It's fine. Who gives? Like, what are you talking about? Why are we talking about this? Just
Bill
like
Burr,
him down. It's so good.
Yeah, Bill Burr is just like, he's like a one-man de-radicalizing, like, you know, campaign. Like, for all the Gen Xers or boomers who start to be like, the woke mob, Bill Burr is like, no, this is not what, like, you could just say shit and you can still get laughs and be funny, but not have to, like, turn that into a shtick or a gimmick or, like, sort of weirdly make yourself the victim. Like, if you're funny, you're funny, and that's fine. And there's a lot of jokes of Bill Burr's that I love. And there's a lot of jokes that I think are super problematic that I think are also still funny. But it's just like, that's a comic. I don't think it's changed. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.